Greetings, one and all. I'm Bill Davis, and on behalf of the entire Office Hours team, I get to say welcome to our daily show. This is the place we answer your tech questions live every day, starting at 7 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time. And to get right to those questions, Alexander Knight from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, is our reader today. Alexander, what do we have on tap?
Thanks, Bill. First question is from the QR code. Kent in Madison, Ohio. Is there a recommended power bank that can charge a gaming laptop, also a LiveU Pro and Yolobox? Not all at the same time, but will allow one to carry around a semi-small, around 1 pound or less, power bank.
Lots of power bank options out there. Mickey Makachor, what are your favorites?
Yeah, I'd say it depends exactly what the requirements are and how much charge you need to be able to provide to these devices. Say, like, even a 90 or 98 watt hour Anton Bauer mount battery would be over 1 pound. And since this is a gaming laptop, you might want to check how much capacity the battery inside the laptop can take. For me, like in a use case like this, I'd want to be able to fully charge that laptop at least 3 times with a single battery pack. That would be most likely not possible with a 90 or 98 watt hour battery. So I don't know why there are limitations in terms of the weight of the battery, but I'd probably consider going larger than 1 pound. If you really need something that's less than 1 pound, I'd probably go with an Anton Bauer battery that's 50 watt hours. That is extremely limited in terms of the capacity, even if you consider lithium iron phosphate batteries that are very energy dense. You still have weight to carry around, and going under 1 pound would be very difficult.
Courtney, you've done a lot of out on the road work. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Amazon is full of these battery banks. I don't know. I can't recommend one. Here's one. And like Mickey said, when you said gaming laptop, that immediately says you're not going to find anything under 1 pound that's going to charge it more than once. This one is 50 amps, suppose 65 watts, 50,000 milliamp hours. I kind of doubt that. You got to take all of these with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they overrate them in the listing. So, this has 2 USB-A outs. You're probably going to want a USB-C out because you're going to want to be able to handle 20 volts. The battery's got to be able to deliver 20 volts to that laptop to charge it, because almost all gaming laptops have power supplies that are 20 to 24 volts. So you better check the voltage output on it. It has to have a USB-C connection that can negotiate that 20 volts, and it has to be able to supply enough amperage to recharge that battery. And most of those gaming laptops will really, if they're running full out, if you're running something that's taxing the graphics processor in there, you're probably only going to get about 2 or 3 hours out of the built-in batteries that are in there. And once you recharge them, it's going to take you quite a while to recharge them from a external battery pack. And I don't know if it'll run on that external battery pack for very long.
You wanted to come back in, Mickey?
Yeah, just to reinforce what Courtney said, the cheap consumer battery packs a lot of times use a lot cheaper cells inside of them, which you cannot guarantee their actual rated runtime or rated capacity. Another thing is, you'd want, most likely, especially with a gaming laptop, you'd probably want to avoid USB-C, because a lot of gaming laptops require, some require like 120 watts, all the way to some of them requiring 250 watts to fully power them, plus charge the battery at the same time. Not only charge the battery, but also like keep it running during your usage. So you'd probably want a battery pack that, of course, has that uses good reputable cells from good manufacturers, as well as ones that have professional or higher current capacity outputs, higher than USB-C.
Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah, and all of these are not 1 pound, that's for sure. So if you're gonna have a battery with a good milliamp power in it, it's gonna at least be about 5 to 10 pounds at the absolute least. And then of course with the LiveU, I'm not sure, because I always thought the LiveU for the external power was a plug rather than a USB port. But if it is a USB port, then you have to have 3 items that have USB ports, or if the gaming laptop is a plug, then you got to have one of these devices that actually has a 110 plug on it. If you're you're in the United States, so yes. So that is a concern right there. Look at Jackery. You might not get something that's 10 pounds. You might get something that might be movable at about 25 pounds, but they'll have these small handheld items that you could probably set on the floor while you're in between whatever you're doing and do that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of activity. I think for the mobile RVers, there's tons of those Jackery kinds of things now that provide mobile power. I just noticed a couple of things. I used to carry around one of these. I think my laptop may get one recharge out of a brick this size. This is one of the Anker larger ones. What I've found is even the smaller Anker guys like this now come with plugs on them, so you can recharge them a lot easier than you used to. And if it says PD, the power delivery side of things, that usually means it'll have a lot of circuitry inside to kind of match the current coming out for recharges. But the idea of getting multiple charges on a gaming laptop plus other things is going to be a heavy lift. That's a lot of current draw for these things. Mickey, did you have another comment you wanted to make before we finish up on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, Guy mentions in the chat that his gaming laptops don't even operate at full capacity when on battery. I also want to say that, add to what Jeffrey mentioned, the LiveU systems are, at least the portable encoders, are meant to be used on the go in a backpack, so they all have DC inputs.
Yeah, Ronnie Hofsway actually in the chat mentioned the Anker PowerCore 3 Elite power bank, and I think there were a couple other things mentioned. Peter Rosado said the Anker 737 2400 milliamp hours, and so there are some other chats about that. Good luck in your search, and if you find something, Kent, that really satisfies all of your criteria, please come back and let us know what it is, and we'll pass it along to our audience as often as we can. Next question.
Next question is from Mike Edwards in Brooklyn, New York. Morning, everyone. What does the panel recommend to remove gaff tape gunk from XLR cables?
Okay, I told everybody there'd be a limit on this because we can talk removal of gaff tape gunk for hours. Literally, I tell you, hours. Mickey McAteer is going to start us off. Mickey?
So yeah, I have one solution that I know works, and I see Jeffrey Powers is using it, Goo-Gone. It just works. But I do want to add that if you have residue left in by a gaff tape, unless it was in place for months or years on end, you're probably using the wrong tape. Go with ProGaff. Use the good stuff.
Yeah, never cheap out on gaff tape. Jeffrey Powers, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what sucks is when you bring a roll of gaff tape and you have your name on it, because you always put your name on the gaff tape, and then you leave it somewhere, and somebody from one of the other crews decides, oh, I want that roll of gaff tape, and then leaves the really junky gaff tape for you to grab, and that's what really sucks. So yeah, Goo-Gone is what you do. WD-40 is in a pinch, and then Dawn, the new spray foam Dawn actually works really well if you want to set it for a longer time and let it set. You don't put water on it; you just spray it with the foam and let it do its job, and then you can scrape it off. But Goo-Gone's the number one. Just go get a case, invest in Goo-Gone. Simple as that.
Marty Atias.
Well, the best way I know to avoid, gaff tape residue on cables is not to use gaff tape. And certainly never leave gaff tape on cables for a long period of time. Like never use gaff tape to hold a roll of cable together. Use Velcro, right? But, when you need to use gaff tape to like tape wire down to a floor, that's fine. Make sure when you pick it up, that you pick it up in a way that the tape doesn't wrap around the cable and stick to itself, because the one thing that that gaff tape sticks to best is gaff tape. And so, treat your gaff tape well, treat your cable well, make sure you're using the good stuff.
Absolutely. Jesse Kester.
Jeffrey, I'm just jumping on what you said. If you, I mean you the audience, not Jeffrey, you would never do this. If you the audience are the type of person to do that, to habitually not bring your own gaff tape to productions, we do everything we can to see that you don't get invited back to future productions. Everything we can.
A major faux pas on set to not handle cables right. I will say that I've used a couple of things over the years. Gugon is one of my go-tos. It's kind of an orange oil-based thing. The only thing I don't like about it is it's a little bit oily after that, so if you use a lot of it over day. If you want to go the next level up, Goof Off is a more industrial solvent kind of thing. Be careful of this stuff. Test it on whatever you're doing. For gaff tape residue on a really strong surface, not a problem. But if you're using it on something that's painted, it might remove the paint with that. And my art director at our old agency used to live and die by this stuff. I think it's no longer legal. There was something in there that'll strip off darn near anything.
That bill, this year.
I think somebody said they're bringing it back, or maybe you have to buy it offshore or something like that. So if you really get into trouble with, oh my gosh, I let the gaff tape stick to itself, then I put it in a hot shed and I left it for 4 years, and now I've got to try to take it off the cable. In those kind of circumstances, you may have to go to something like that. Jesse, oh no, you took care. So I think we're ready to move on to the next thing. But good question. We had fun with that. Next question.
Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand's asking, Soldano rack amps / preamps are back. Thoughts?
Alexander Knight's going to help us out, Alexander.
I haven't tried this one out, but I will tell you, as someone who's tried Soldano amps, they were always on my bucket list, but way too expensive as a kid. They have a very specific sound, and I remember the first time back in the 90s when I heard about Soldano, one of my favorite bands, Silverchair, when I saw Daniel Johns come out on that stage with a PRS McCarty guitar in silver plugged into this Soldano SLO 100 stack. It sounded amazing. And my first experience playing that Soldano head through that 412 cabinet was just this monstrous tone. And if it sounds 98% like that, I'll be very impressed. So I am definitely going to give this a shot.
Let's go to our next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas, discuss Lino Unreal Motion Design-based motion graphic solution. Motion design enables the creation and control of everything from simple lower thirds to full-blown 3D titles.
So we've got another player in this space. Jesse Kester, have you looked into this?
I haven't used the actual plugin. Let's take a look at what we're talking about. Then we'll talk about what we're looking at. So what it does is real-time graphics in Unreal Engine. And what was most shocking, especially if you play the audio to this ad, because it is basically like a premium beat song. There it is. That's what was shocking. It's premium beat, and the voiceover for this ad is AI generated.
Whoa.
And then when that came up, there was a huge gap between the quality of the ad they produced and the asking price at the end of the ad. So I'm assuming that this is software that's already really, really embedded in really, really expensive productions. And this was more of a hey guys, just so you know kind of ad, not like a introducing themselves to the world kind of ad.
They're up in monster cable land. Let's see how much money we can get for this product. So hopefully who knows, maybe there's a market for it, but buyer beware, or do your research. And if you buy it and it works for you, and it turns out to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, come back and let us all know. Next question.
Starting at $9.55.
Yeah, that's with no extras. Well.
From the QR code, Marielle Jusha Miera and Wablo is asking, what are the exciting new things to look out for from the new technology breakfast in Vegas this past weekend? A lot of big industry news happening this week from the event.
And I haven't seen any of it, although we were all talking about it pre-show. This was one of the questions we took a look at, and everybody went, new technology breakfast in Las Vegas. I don't know why, but for some reason, the idea of a breakfast meeting, I know they happen in Las Vegas, but most of the time, mornings are not your best time to schedule a meeting in Las Vegas, because Las Vegas is known to be one of those towns that goes kind of 24/7-ish. But I have not heard anything about that. So thank you for the heads up. We will now have it on our radar and pay a little attention to it. You said there's a lot of industry news coming out happening. I didn't look at my at industry feeds this morning. I got up a little bit late, so I didn't see anything coming out. But if maybe over the course of the next couple of days, whatever announcements they made, I'm assuming that you're thinking about things from kind of major companies that we all deal with. So if there's news from any of the core people, I'm sure it'll spread around and we'll be talking about it the next days, but I think it's a little too early. So thank you for putting it on our radar. Let's go to the next question.
John Foltz in Sealands Grove, Pennsylvania. Dante, clocking issues. I have a Yamaha DM3 and several AVIOs on the same subnet. Everything is set at 48 kilohertz with the latest Dante software. If DM3 is clock leader, some AVIOs won't sync and vice versa. Ideas?
Marty, start us off.
Well, that's a good one. So one thing is that AVIOs are not gigabit networking. They're 100 megabit networking, fast Ethernet. That's one consideration. If they're USB AVIOs, then take that and plug it into directly into your computer without the network connected, and you can access the programming in the AVIO. Don't try to do it over Dante controller because you can't access all of the settings through Dante controller. So plug it into your computer. This is for a USB AVIO. Plug it into your computer and access it directly. You can look at how it's set up. Other than that, if they're on the same network and they are all set to dynamic addressing, or if you're absolutely sure that you know the IP address and plugging it into your computer is the way to set that address, the only way to set that address, I believe, then it should all work out. Let's see what Mickey has to say.
Absolutely. Mickey knows a lot about this stuff. Mickey, what's your advice to us?
Yeah, John doesn't mention what bit depth the devices are set to, so you might want to look into that, make sure they're set the same. But this certainly feels a lot like a networking issue. Now, I don't know what your network environment is like, your IP environment is like, if you are traversing through different switches, what type of switches you're using. If you're using Ubiquiti Unify products, that's certainly something I've seen. That's why I never use Unify for AV over IP. It looks like there is something blocking PTP transport between the devices. And if you are traversing different switches or even different modules or different blades or different backplanes within the same switch, there might be something that is not allowing PTP to traverse, or at least traverse well, between your different ports. So take a look at what the network infrastructure is like. Perhaps if it is a more complex system, try to break things down into more simpler network first. Connect the DM3 through PoE injector directly into to one of the AVIOs that do not follow the leader. See if that works. After that, maybe add a single switch in between. After that, go through multiple switches, see at what point that breaks down, because there might be other variables in your network environment that might be affecting that. If there are other PTP-V1 clocks on the same network, maybe your QoS system might be prioritizing, if you have QoS set up, which you should. There might be another another PTP-V1 master that's being prioritize over the Dante PTP-V1 clock. So you may want to look at that. But certainly look at this. Feels very, very much like a networking issue, as Tim McCullough mentioned.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of chat, too, in the Mukana chat here. Steve Kinsey said, check your router. Yamaha and Audinate are very picky when it comes to unmanaged EEE routers. And Alexander here on the panel said, don't use the built-in NIC on your Mac, get a third-party USB app. So there's a lot of chat about that. So it seems like you're in a land where you have to get things kind of right for things to see each other and work in that part of networking infrastructure. Mickey, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, just commenting to what Steve mentioned in the Mukan chat. Yamaha is very picky. He says that Yamaha is very picky when it comes to unmanaged EEE routers. Not just Yamaha. Dante does not work with energy efficient Ethernet. Period.
Okay, so we've heard that before, that saving power or turning things into power saving mode affects a lot of things. So be very careful when you're trying to time and send signals around if you're using anything that's designed to do that. So yeah, I've heard that more than a few times here on the show, listening to the discussions that go by. That should take care of it. John, thank you for the question. Let's move on. Next question.
This one's from Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand. Behringer have done it again. Meet the Behringer Wave. Thoughts? There's a video there.
Let's start with Courtney Gooden. Courtney.
Yeah, Behringer is turning out so many synths. I can't even keep up with them. It's like once a week they introduce a new synth. This is a wavetable synth, the Behringer Wave. So it's a hybrid synth. It's got analog modifiers, filters, and so on. And the oscillators are wavetable based. So they have a bunch of built-in wavetables. And you can see the shape of your wave on this little OLED display down here. So it's got 30 factory wavetables, 64 user wavetables, and 32 custom transients that you can digitally program in. And then that goes through your analog voltage control filters and ADSR envelope generators. So, it's hard to keep up. There's so many of these Behringers out there, the little rack mounts, the modulars. Geez, I don't know who's in charge of synthesizers, but they're going all out. They one a week.
There you go. Don't forget, your questions do drive this show, and your voting on those questions drive it even farther. If you want your questions to get more traction, get up in the list, you can vote on them through the Mukana interface. And if you know how to do that, you can just shoot this. If you want to get into the simple, quick thing, ask officehours.global. We'll get your questions into kind of the instant queue. But if you learn to kind of follow the breadcrumbs, go to the officehours.global website and sign up. Once you sign up, you can get access into the Mukana back-end chat, and during the show, that's live, and a lovely little community of folks, it's not necessarily little, sometimes it's pretty big, but a community of folks watch the show and chat among themselves. That we've been reading some of those questions on the show live, but as you can see, if you've been paying attention to that, people are also sharing other solutions, so it's a wider pool of brains that we can call on to get our answers to our questions and to make sure we cover things as clearly as possible. So pay attention to askofficehours.global. And next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Amaran just unveiled MagSafe-compatible LED mini light for your phone. Will this make it more production capable?
Let's start with Courtney Gooden. Courtney, what do you think?
Well, you can blind your talent with it. Because it goes right at the back of the phone here and right by the camera lens. The one design flaw that I would say, it has this little cover that flips down and covers it, but it's going to go through the shot if you open it up while you're shooting. So that's kind of bad. But I guess it could also form a little lens shade if you have sun coming in.
Courtney, I looked at that very carefully. I don't think that's a shade. I think that's the actual light emitting thing. And I think that when you flip it up, it lights for the other camera on the other side for selfies.
Oh, really?
That was kind of my read. I thought exactly the same thing you did when I looked it up this morning. I thought, why in the world would you want a shade?
Closed, here it is.
Yeah.
And so it must have a little LED array on that side.
Exactly. That's what I kind of figured out.
But if you're using it on this side, it's going to go through the shot.
Well, typically on the old iPhones, the camera on the front and the back were different resolutions. So
yeah.
Main camera versus the selfie camera.
The fact is you're going to have light shining in your eyes from right over the camera. So it'll eliminate a lot of shadows. So it's good for a little fill light. I don't know if I'd use it as my only light unless you're shooting at night and there are no other lights around.
Yeah. Mickey, what are your thoughts?
I'm not entirely sure what Paul means by production capable, but the advantage of this light is its convenience, not so much its the quality of light that it produces or the intensity that it can put out, but it's more of the convenience that, it can magnetically stick to a phone. And for the crowd that does shoot on phones, that might be good for them because it's quick and easy to deploy. But in terms of being production capable, I don't know what the factors are in what Paul would consider production capable, but I would say it's convenient.
There you go, Jeffrey Powers.
So yeah, the basically that little arm is the light itself. Underneath it is a mirror. And then that mirror, it has a couple little lights on the sides. So when you're doing, like, if you're a TikToker and you're doing putting on makeup while you're trying to tell a story, those types of TikToks, this is going to be perfect for them. Yeah, it's not going to emit that much light. It's not going to be a production. It's way too close to the camera lenses. It's if you want to have production lighting, then you put up production lighting that's going to have a little bit more brightness and power than these little LEDs will ever be able to emit. But if you're in a car and you say, "Hey, I have a great story," or "I just ran into a situation and I want to tell all my TikTokers about it," while I apply a new coat of mascara to my eyes or whatever, then this is perfect for that.
Wait, they're driving past an event and they're applying mascara? There's a safety violation involved here. Yeah, but little lights for eye brightening and things like, I mean, you know, in Hollywood they had the Obi lights, I understood, named for silent era film star Merle Oberon or something like that. And I've heard gaffers for years say, yeah, put an Obi on that. We just want to pop up eye sockets and things like that. Or maybe there's heavy shadows somewhere and you want to soften them up a little. So little lights like that. My philosophy has always been anything that emits light can be useful if it's used right. And if you try to use it in a way that it's not designed for, like if you try to use this kind of thing as a key light with nothing else, you're going to get the equivalent of a driver's license picture for your image. And it's just because one light right at the lens axis, right in your face, is not going to be flattering for most people, particularly those of us who have some years behind us. It's not flattering for things like wrinkles and eyelid drooping and things like that. So just know what you're doing with it. Know who you're shooting, and as a little piece of kit in your arsenal, what the heck? Yeah, sure. Use it. Maybe it'll turn out to be perfect for what you're doing. As your only source, probably not. That's my 2 cents. Next question.
Mike Edwards in Brooklyn, New York. Morning, everyone. What does the panel think of OmniBus 3.0 from AudioMovers?
Alexander Knight, did you do some research on this?
Yeah, I looked at it this morning. It looks like a cool app. I don't know if it's exclusive to macOS, but it says it's macOS. It's $199. What it is basically a multi-channel networked audio application. Now, this integrates, it looks like I'm only seeing 2 protocols that it supports, NDI audio and the AVB protocol, which is not as commonly used as Dante. I think it'd be more useful if it supported more protocols, but I don't know if that's a licensing thing or not. It very well may be. But I know Motu is into the AVB networked protocol pretty heavily, and there's lots of other companies. I know PreSonus with their digital mixer line, they're all AVB network. I've worked with AVB. It's very simple. I like it. I just don't. I guess you'd really have to be in this world of NDI and AVB for it to be useful, but it looks like it has a really slick interface. The $200 license allows you to use it on up to 3 computers, which to me it seems reasonable. So haven't tried it, but it looks like a neat application.
Hopefully that helped you, Mike. Let's move to the next question.
Rian Smith in Trinidad, West Indies is asking, has anyone been to or worked at Mega Studios Audio or Video? This is a multi-theme setup studio with many sets.
I'm not sure where even it is, but there was an Instagram story link there. Jesse Kester, are you familiar with this operation?
Not this one in particular. Let's just bash up the Instagram as it flies by. This is, like a reel that they made of the build going from empty warehouse to full sets. We use these occasionally. Clients like them because they're affordable and because it feels fancy to the clients. But internally, as a team, you get to shoot at them once, and then that location is kind of really super burnt because you see it on your Instagram feed, you see it on a lot of other, on YouTube, you see other music videos being shot there, things like that, and suddenly like you fall out of love with them really quick because it's so common to see the exact same room, the exact same bathtub or pillars, whatever it is you're looking at. So it really, they aren't that great for us internally, but we have shot there because it's what the client could afford, and the client wasn't so familiar with the space that they were sick of seeing it on repeat on different platforms. Something unique to this one is that it's all in one warehouse, so you're not really, if you're doing anything, you're not really renting one set, you're really renting the whole warehouse, because you don't want to be shooting your thing while a music video is right next to you blasting their song on repeat for 6 hours throughout the day while you're trying to do a romantic dialogue scene in a, you know, a soft, quiet environment. So this one is interesting. I don't know where it is. I especially don't know how applicable it would be to any of our pipelines. If you look on their Instagram feed, it seems to be a lot of music videos, which would be appropriate for a warehouse space with sets like these, but not really much else.
Mickey Makachor.
Yeah, I certainly agree with Jesse there. There are a couple of them here, although it looks like they're the specific one that Rian linked to is much larger than the ones that I find here. They're pretty popular with, yes, the music video crowd, as well as the with wedding photographers and videographers to do like prenup photo shoots and stuff. They sound horrible. The one that Rian linked to was in a warehouse. They just, you don't want to be in a set that looks like a nice, like cozy bedroom, but the audio you're hearing sounds like a warehouse. So definitely not the place to do anything that requires any sync sound.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I think the one that they pointed to was in Atlanta. But there's several. There's one in Hollywood, actually. It's out in the valley, Sun Valley, I think. I think it's Riverside Studios, where these people bought these, rented these big warehouses out there, and then when a TV series goes out of production, finishes production, they buy the sets from them, tear them down off the sound stages that they're on, and reset them up in this warehouse. So they have, tons of standing sets for bars, apartments, jails, hotel rooms, those kind of things, courtrooms. So when you get one of those shows that's set in a courtroom or set in a jail or set in a bar, they'll take the standing sets and they'll move them out to this warehouse in the valley. And like Mickey said, the audio is always a problem. But thanks to the fact that they've put 40 or 50 sets in this one warehouse, it's all broken up pretty well. And you'll walk out a door of a bar and then you'll be in the middle of a jail. It's really strange to shoot there. And a lot of TV shows will just need one scene that takes place in a bar or a jail or a restaurant. And or the FBI, they've got an FBI headquarters set out there. So if you need a quick scene that takes place there, that's your go-to place. But I wouldn't set a whole show there. It's good for quick pickup or commercial if you need that specific type of set. And there are companies in most production centers like Atlanta and Los Angeles and New York that do something like this.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I was visiting Los Angeles in my early days, and somebody says, we got to stop by the plane. And I went, what? And it took us to a place. They had a fuselage of, I think, a 707 or something like that somewhere in Hollywood, and it was designed just to be able to shoot interior airplane stuff. And so just this weird thing. And that's when the industry is that important to you, you get those kind of extra things. The other name went away here. So hopefully that answered your question, Rian. I will say that when I popped up, I just got to do this because I know there's a constituency wants it. So I did a search on Mega Studios, and I was going down the list, and I was going, oh, that's interesting. But then I got down here to Mega Cat Studios, and I'm not sure what that is. It was on Twitter, but I want to investigate what Mega Cat Studios is. I want to know whether it's one huge cat or just lots and lots of cats. That's enough said about that. We're leaving that alone. Bye. Next question.
Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand. I must have missed this one. Behringer Surge's liquid filter. Thoughts?
Courtney Gooden.
Yet another in the long line of synthesizer accessories. This is for their rack mount type synths. This is it's a multi-mode filter here. It'll do band pass, band reject, voltage control filter. So there's just a video on it, but it has that good old analog sound. So I think that's a Eurorack design or their rack mount modular synths that Behringer has. So it's just a new liquid sounding filter. Gives you that rich analog flavor.
Next question.
Eddie Kokendorfer in Vieira, Florida. Can you recommend a good reference for show networking at venues, LAN, WAN, switch management, etc.? Thanks.
Marty Adius, take us into this.
There are a lot of resources for learning show networking. ProSound Web, the publication website, has a number of really good articles about show networking. Some of them are multi-part articles, so there's lots of information there. I highly recommend doing the Dante certification. There's a lot of audio and video networking information there. Calrec, the console manufacturer, has a really good network primer on their website. And Netgear, that we know for their AV switches, all have really good information that you can find for gearing yourself up and learning show networking.
Nice. Mickey McAchore.
Yeah, I would very, very highly recommend looking at the books from John Huntington. He has a book called The Introduction to Show Networking. Very, very in-depth book. It covers mostly show control type of networking, wherein you're that's a little more akin to what the types of knowledge you'd need for theater shows or musicals, but it also takes into account some AV over IP, and along with the Introduction to Show Networking, also read his other book, Introduction to Show Control, which again is like just it's one of the Bibles, and as Marty mentioned, also take a look at the Dante certification program. The Dante levels 1, 2, and 3 give you not only knowledge specific to Dante, but a basic primer on basic networking.
Nice. Next question.
From the QR code, Rui Diaz is asking in Portugal, currently I'm using a 1-inch sensor Sony camcorders for multicam events, also using Sony FX3 for highlights and interviews. Do you see major benefits upgrading all of the workflow for full frame?
Jesse Kester, what's your opinion?
There are plenty of benefits. First being that your images will probably look better because you'll have more bokeh to play with, and you'll be able to really separate the subject from the background with a larger sensor. You'll probably get better low light performance on a lower sensor. I mean, it's there's no A to B 1-to-1 comparison. These are all probably things you'll notice. The challenge there is balancing the benefits against the cost, because it's kind of one of those curves that goes like that as you get into bigger sensors, because you're not just getting a larger sensor, you're also getting more expensive glass, and you're not just doing it once. If you're doing it for multicam, you're 3x, and you're also thinking about batteries. It's going to take more power to power all these larger sensors and keep them running at 4K, 6K, 8K, whatever you're shooting at. So the cost goes up. When you're talking 1-inch sensors, this is just me speaking personally, we did not mind buying our 1-inch sensor cameras on credit at the start of our careers, because internally we knew we could get them paid off in a month. If we're talking 3x full frame sensors plus lens kits, that's really more like a cash purchase that you're thinking of. So that is pretty heavy against the benefits you're going to get, which are a prettier image and better low light performance, a lot of which might not even be discernible to your clients immediately. Like, they might feel it, but they won't all be able to express it verbally, the difference that you just invested very heavily into. So it might take a little bit longer to make back your investment on 3x full frame plus lenses than it did for you to make back your investment on 1-inch sensors and the lenses that you can work with on those. The affordability of the lenses that you can use for a 1-inch.
Mickey McAchore.
Yeah, I would say moving up to switching over your camcorders to cameras of the same family. as the FX3 would provide. The benefit of that would not so much be the fact that the sensor would be larger, but more along the lines of having the same color sign so that matching is easier, and also the ability to share accessories between the different cameras, your lens system. Speaking of lens system, like having interchangeable lenses means you can have better lenses and even attach, like, since you're doing events, you might want to adapt it to a larger box lens for some productions. You might want to attach it to say, like, Fujinon broadcast lenses. These are possible with camera systems that have interchangeable lenses compared to camcorder. Since you're doing events, you may want to save up and maybe move up to the FX9, so that you have a camera system that you can gen lock and sync all the sensors. You have the ability to sync all the sensors together so that you can be able to minimize the latency of the entire production system. Say, if you're doing iMag or even just simply cutting between cameras, minimizing that latency means your cameras will come into the production system in sync. So, it would certainly be something I would consider if budget permits.
Next question.
Sean's in St. Paul, Minnesota. What would be an easy and economical way to test mics with pink noise to see if any of them are off?
Courtney Gooden's going to start us off this morning. Courtney?
There is no easy or economical way to test microphones. One problem is you've got to generate an audio wave that floats through the air. So you have to have a transducer to generate this audio wave. And usually you use a sweep generator. I've never heard of. Maybe it's something these new boys are doing, is using that pink noise. We used to always test them with a calibrated sweep generator and a transducer that is. And the big problem is trying to calibrate the transducer to make sure the transducer that's generating the wave is equal across all frequencies. So you got to start there and start with a calibrated wavetable that tells you what the errors are in your transducer before you put the microphone in front of it. And then you have to seal it in an anechoic chamber so that it's the sound isn't bouncing off and you're getting even and odd harmonics at weird frequencies. So it's not easy or simple, and you can't just look at it with pink noise and say, yeah, that looks like pink noise on your scope. No, it's much more difficult than that. To actually calibrate and check a microphone to see if it's deficient at a certain frequency or down, or see where it rolls off in the high end, et cetera. Yeah.
White noise, pink noise. I want some beige noise. Mixie Makachor, what do you think?
So yeah, my solution for this would be to regularly send in your equipment to the manufacturer for regular maintenance and testing. It might not seem economical in the short term, but in the long term, you're making sure your investment, especially if these are high quality microphones that cost thousands of dollars, keeping your investment in tip top shape would be economical in the long term.
Marty Atias.
So when you're looking at testing a piece of equipment to see if it's operating properly, one of the key factors is determining whether what you're putting into the device or whether is the same thing that's coming out of the device. And so for a microphone, for example, you want to generate some pink noise, or any noise, could be music, could be pink noise, could be speech, and then measuring the output and comparing it to the input. There are processes for doing this. They're called FFT analyzers. We use these for like tuning up a room and making sure that the loudspeakers are in phase and equalized properly to give us a flat response. They're used to test electronic devices like mixers and interfaces and stuff to make sure that they are flat and that there's no alteration of the signal that's going through it. So FFTs are two-channel devices. There's a reference input, which is a copy of the output, and then a second input that is your device under test. And then you have a number of different graphical representations of that to show you how they compare. And here's an example of one screen. This is actually three different meters, three different tests, three different graphs that show you different things about the device. And so this is the way that we test devices like this in a live PA situation, as I explained, testing the amplifiers and the loudspeakers and seeing whether what you're putting into them is the same thing that's coming out of them. That's the way a professional lab would test this thing.
And Tim McCullough in the chat just notes, for those of you who are trying to keep up with all the terminology, FFT is fast Fourier transform, shows the difference between two signals in time, phase, and magnitude. Alexander Knight, continue on the discussion.
Yeah, Marty had really good points there, and the only thing I want to add is that for me at least, I just use my ears. Once you use these mics and you know what they're supposed to sound like, you should be able to know pretty quickly if something seems off. If you tune your ears for checking things like polarity and stuff like that, or phase issues, you should be able to do that. Microphones, in my experience, rarely ever go wrong. I have seen that happen, even as something as tried and true as an SM58. It's rare, but I have seen them die. But just use your ears.
Mickey Makachor.
Yeah, I second what Alexander said there. You definitely be able to, if you've experienced listening to that specific mic for a while, you would definitely know immediately when there's something off. But going back to having the manufacturers or the service center regularly maintain your equipment, is that they have a proper controlled environment with laboratory or bench grade equipment to do the testing. So they can accurately assess the frequency response of the microphones against their what they would be expecting from that mic. They would have not only the environment, but they would also have equipment that can generate a reference sound very accurately, and also the rest of the measurement pipeline to very accurately measure the response of the mic.
Marty Atias, yet another note here.
Yeah. So if you suspect something is wrong with your product, with your microphone, definitely send it back to the manufacturer for servicing. They will know what it's supposed to do, what it's supposed to sound like, and they will be able to get it back into within spec. For routine testing, however, there are various things that can go wrong with microphones. Humidity can affect them. Moisture can affect them. If we're talking about lavalier microphones, you've got things like sweat and makeup and things, or head-worn microphones. If we're talking about microphones you put on a stand, if they got dropped, the capsule can be dislodged. There are a variety of things that can go wrong with them. If you want to know more about FFTs and how they work and how you would use them and where to find them, Open Sound Meter, so opensoundmeter.com is actually a free one that actually is quite comprehensive. And you can go up to YouTube and just put Open Sound Meter in the search bar and come up with a number of tutorials about how to use it, how to set it up, how it works, and what you can do with it.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add in here, since I've been doing voiceover work for 40 years plus, sometimes it's the mic, sometimes it's the room, sometimes it's me. And what I mean by that is that I will step up to a microphone some days, and I will try to read copy or something like that, and in the first 5 minutes I'm going, nope, not right now, and I have to go sit, have a cup of tea, relax a little bit, see if I can get my voice where it's supposed to be, because for some reason I'm tense and I'm up here and I'm stressing, and it just doesn't sound like the other me that I read with yesterday. So I do think some of the times people hear that moment when somebody did a great performance in front of the right microphone at the right time, and it was processed by an intelligent engineer, and it brought out all the things, and it sounds huge and fabulous and warm, and everybody loves the sound of that. And they go, well, if I get that microphone, that's how I'll sound. Nope. And I say that note because me, as someone who does a lot of voiceover work, I don't always sound like the best me possible on the same microphone. I also have found, and this has been interesting, I just recently switched from the Sennheiser MKH416 back to my Neumann TLM 103, and I find myself performing differently. That's one of the tests that I wanted to do with it. I had a book, an audio novel that I'm recording right now, and it had a lot of character things, and there was a lot of whispering and shouting and things like that. So I thought, let me move off the shotgun style. Let me get a more sensitive mic and see if I perform differently. And darned if I didn't find myself after a week or so performing a little bit differently because of the microphone itself. These are all variables that go into things. So I'm a great believer in buy the mic, but then live with it for a while and see how it works for you. Let's go to the next question.
Paul Vahus in Austin, Texas. Blackmagic Camera app 2.1.1 has just been released for iOS. What has changed?
Mickey Macachor, start us off there.
But yeah, this update pretty much consists of bug fixes and also stability and performance improvements, and that's about that. No additional or newer features added on this .11 release.
And I'm going to say good for you, Blackmagic, for sometimes taking the time to fix those little annoyances and things like that and just improve the software, even if it's not a big feature. Sometimes that makes things more stable, and stability is gold. Jeffrey Powers, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't see any other updates. Was there something, Paul, that you saw that you wanted to talk about? Because, this is just stability updates.
There you go. Next question.
Archie Trivedi from Daytona Beach, Florida is asking, this year I was honored to meet Tlaloc and others in person. Anybody heading to PodFest? I believe the dates are 16th to the 19th. Could be cool to meet the office hours global community.
Yeah, Harshit, I'm not sure where do you know where PodFest is and where the travel thing is? Is it in one of the big cities? Toronto, Canada. Okay, so we're up in
Toronto?
Alexander's neck of the woods. Courtney, start us off.
I think it's in Orlando.
Orlando?
That's the one we're talking about here. Podfest
okay.
2025. It's in,
pretty far
Orlando.
from Toronto.
Yeah, opposite side of the weather spectrum too.
That's right.
It's SeaWorld. So I'm not planning on going, but it's coming up here in January 16th through 19th. They also have a thing that goes around the country called Pod Tour, the same organizer that goes to different. So here's the schedule for the Pod Tour. So they have like many Podfests in South Florida, Savannah, Georgia, Orlando, Florida, and Toronto, Canada. Maybe that's what they were thinking of.
Podfest, Pod Bless.
6th.
Rashid, it's your question. Do you have a follow-up there?
No, I was just going to say Orlando is definitely where I heard about it. And if somebody lives around there, or we have people in Sarasota and all around. So
you're down there. You're in Daytona Beach.
I'm in Daytona, so it would be nice to see everybody.
It's one of the great things about the Office Hours community is when we find ourselves in a place that other members of this particular tribe are close to, we tend to see if we can get together and have a drink and shake hands IRL in real life, as they say in Reddit and other places in the world. So all for that. Plus, hope you can meet people. This is a community, and it's great to be able to share things with people who do the same kind of work you do. Let's go to the next question.
Audrey Dole in Berlin. Speaking Dante, what do you think about this D-Link switch for small Dante setups? Some companies I know use them in bundle with their QL and DM consoles.
Mickey Macachor, start us off.
But yeah, this is the switch that Andre's talking about, and just scrolling through the page here at the bottom, it highlights energy efficient Ethernet as a feature. Now, if there is the ability to turn off EEE on your ports, then it would be fine for Dante, and of course, being able to manually set your QoS profile, your quality of service profile, and prioritize very specific types of traffic using, say DCMP. I forget the acronym. Anyway, being able to set exactly what is prioritized in your traffic, and as well as being able to enable IGMP snooping so that you can make sure if you do have multicast traffic on your network, that multicast traffic is only going to the port that it has to go to, then it's perfectly fine for Dante. But the big thing is EEE. If you cannot disable that, then no go for Dante.
Marty Atias.
Right, everything that Mickey just said, plus this appears to be an unmanaged switch, which means you cannot control any of the things that Mickey recommended. And so while this may work with very small Dante setups, like within your desktop, right, it could very well work. But if you were networking with other desktops or in a facility, I would highly recommend using a managed switch where you can control some of those other important features, networking features like IGMP and traffic prioritization and VLANs and such like that.
Mickey, you wanted to come back in?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the acronym DSCP. Those are that's a means to be able to set exactly what packets are prioritized in your switch.
There you go. All right. Next question.
Ronnie Hofsø in Tromsø, Norway. Board meeting with 10 persons around the tables in a ballroom venue. Our goosenecks is on another job and plan to use 4 to 6 Sennheiser E914. Is there any better alternatives?
Did anybody look up the Sennheiser E914? Is that another gooseneck kind of conference mic thing? Courtney, did you take a look?
Yeah, it's a small diaphragm condenser. That's what it looks like. You would want to mount it in a shock mount if you're going to use it on a table for a conference, because it's going to pick up every thump and bump on that table. If it's not shock mounted, either like a little rubber donut type holder that will hold it, little rubber donut shock mount. And you got to get them pretty close to your talent. If you're going to have 4 to 6 of them, you're going to have to auto mix them. Otherwise, you're going to be in a feedback situation. They're fairly sensitive microphones, and to use them for amplification for a ballroom, I'd be careful with that if they're going to be seated in a circle. There are gooseneck, ADC and Audio-Technica. AT Audio-Technica makes a lot of goosenecks that are designed for conference work that would work as well.
Mickey, you want to do a quick? Nope.
Yeah, just like Courtney mentioned, you'd probably want to get them closer because their pickup pattern, you would capture a lot more ambience with these mics compared to a gooseneck. So you can get arms or goosenecks that can hold the clip for this or a shock mount for this. But if budget permits, I would just sub-rent additional gooseneck microphones.
Marty, you wanted to get in there?
Yeah, the reason that you would pick up more ambience with these microphones is because the gooseneck can get closer to the mouth. So as Mickey suggested, put these on a gooseneck, make sure that they're on a very stable desktop stand, something with a wide base that's going to hold it stably when somebody pulls the mic towards them. You don't want it to fall down. And definitely use a good auto mixer with any of these microphones. Good auto mixer is definitely going to be your friend.
Thank you all for your questions today. We're going to have more questions we have time to get to today, so don't forget, if you put your questions in, if you use the QR code system, they will come in again tomorrow, I think, automatically. If you put them in through Mukana, then they will be sent back to you in your notes field. So just remember, you can kind of recycle them for tomorrow if you'd like to do that. And that takes us to saying the thank yous that we do every day, because they are very important, because this is an all-volunteer operation. Nobody's getting paid to put their time into this and to share their expertise. And you have collectively on this panel hundreds upon hundreds of years of in the field getting the job done expertise, and everybody that you see on the panel just volunteers to show up and share this freely. That's been the whole heart and soul of the office process since we started the show. somewhere around 4+ years ago, 1,700 plus shows ago. So a thank you to the panelists who come in and freely give their expertise to everybody else every single day. The other two constituencies of kind of the tripod of genius that Office Hours revolves around. One of those constituencies is, of course, you, the audience, because you drive this show with your questions. So by formulating those questions and allowing us to discuss them, we hopefully help everybody who watches or listens to the show understand what's going on. And another incredibly important constituency that you never see on the show, but that really are the heart and soul of getting this out to you wherever you are on the planet. That is our amazing back-end crew. And there's a village lights up every night, every morning, all the time. We do the show here traditionally, but we're also on, for those of you who might be new to the show, there's a discussion that happens on After Hours 24/7. And people can come in and literally say, I've got this problem, I'm dying here, I'm on deadline, and I need to figure out how to make this thing work. And it's amazing to me that the people who just hang out in the background at After Hours will pop up and try to help you solve your problems. It's an amazing thing. So we appreciate each of those constituencies. Don't forget, we are a non-for-profit too. We're a 501c3. So that means that if you'd like to contribute something to helping us do this, keep the lights on, the doors open. Alex Lindsay, who started this back in the beginning when the pandemic kind of disassociated all of us and we all wanted to keep talking about things and not just get sent home. It takes a good little bit of resources, time, and effort to make this happen. So if you would like to donate something, go to officehours.global/donate, and you can help us out. T-shirts have already gone out, I understand, or they're very close to it. That was our first little fundraising T-shirt thing. If you missed the first go-around, I'm sure there'll be another one that'll happen at some point. Don't forget there, officehours.global/donate if you'd like to help us out. We're done for today. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be here hosting. Alex is out of town for a little bit. But thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Great job, everybody. Good show.
Mm-hmm. Audio Day.
Audio Day. I would love Audio Day.
Wait, we're not getting paid for this?
Well, we've doubled your salary, Mickey. So everything you were earning last week, it's been doubled again.
I get paid in bananas.
Plastic
triple
banana.
your pay.
Keep emailing HR, but I never get a response.
Yeah.
Paid in Confederate dollars.
Oh, I get emails from HR all the time to make sure I go up and they're all scams. Open this document.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.